Hey guys, what's up? It is me, Hunter, and I am back with another video. Super excited to put this out there for you guys. One of the things I've been wanting to talk about, is a little bit more kind of about my book and kind of my personal writing journey. And that's really what I want this channel to kind of record in some capacity. Is kind of my little journey. And how it's going. And I hope to one day look back on this video from a different perspective. From an older, wiser, hopefully, having more books published, and things like that, and kind of look back and see where I am now, and hopefully look at it from a growing and grown perspective. At some point in the future. But also for anybody else who is out there and you kind of think to yourself, well, hey, I'm a writer and or I want to be, and I haven't got a master's in creative book writing, or whatever it is they've got out there these days. I'm just learn on YouTube. I read books, and that's what I want to do. And that's exactly the kind of person I am. I don't have any professional. I don't have a professional bone in my body. I don't know what you're talking about. But I do have a little book out, and it is called The Broken World, and I'm just so excited that it is out. It's available on Amazon as an ebook or a hardback. And I've been writing for as long as I can remember. This the version there. Well, this particular story, let's say, I've been writing. It took me about 10 years to get out a very very short book, about 150 pages. And that's what I wanted to talk about, was kind of why it took me that long. And one of the things that really held me back as a writer. And I wanted to kind of share this with you guys because, again, if you're somebody like me and you're wanting to write, or are writing and thinking of publishing a book, I do think that this is some critical information that might really, really help you. And look, I'm not one of those guys. I'm not, I like to watch a lot of, BookTube or AuthorTube or what have you. And I'm not offering a class on Skillshare. You can't buy my course for $9.99 and get a free ebook with it for how to write your book or how to publish your book. No, I just, I did the thing that people do, and I published a book. And I learned along the way. And One of the things that I look back on, and I don't know if I think that I wish that I could do it differently or go back and change things, because to be at the point where I am, where people have read my book and they tell me, they say, Hunter, I bought your book, and I gave it to my kid, and she absolutely loves it, and they're waiting for book two. That's a very very special feeling. And it's one that's really changed kind of my mindset on moving forward, and how I decide to kind of write books and kind of do things in the future. You kind of start out and you're like, I want to be rich and famous and I want to make $1 bajillion. And, like, hey, no, maybe you just want to write a good story. And I think that was really kind of my goal all along in a lot of ways. And that was kind of what held me back in a big way, was wanting my story to be good. And I know a lot of people kind of in the art community, they debate and they say, well, art is subjective, it's good, or it's, you can't really say. And I disagree with that slightly. And and what I mean by good specifically is, when an artist is trying to put work out there to create something, they have a vision in mind. And I think that you can pretty objectively say that art is good or bad based on whether or not it meets that vision, right? If you are trying to direct a movie, you're trying to make a movie, right? And you think to yourself, man, I want to make the funniest comedy out there, okay? And you want to make a really funny comedy, and so you go and you direct your movie, and it comes out like not very funny, but also good to watch, and it's deeply emotional, and helps people who have trauma, or something like that. Like, I don't know. Well, that's, it might be a good movie. You might enjoy watching it, but it's not really the vision that the artist or the director had in mind to put out there. And so, maybe people like it, but the director themselves will kind of look at that and say, hey, that's not really what I wanted to put out there. And so that was a big concern for me, was, am I going to be able to portray the vision that I have in my mind? And kind of growing up and trying that, I was, when you're younger, and I know there's a lot of debate kind of in the community. Can you be a teenage author? Can you do this or can you do that? And I think absolutely you can, but you also have to understand, that you're going through a lot of changes and you're experiencing a lot of things. And you can really see this, if you ever go to my Instagram, you'll see this in my art. My art is a very good example of, you're really, really good for the place in which you're at. This is a really, if you look at this one picture, you'll see it. You'll say, "Hey, man, this is maybe not that great. Actually, it's not a very good drawing." But if you look at the drawings around it, you'll say, "Hey, this for where you were at, in 2011, right? This is the best picture out of all those from that particular year." But then if you look at something I drew in 2023, you'll say, "Hey, these are way better. Your worst picture in 2023 is way better than anything you did in 2011." But there is one picture that's better than anything else you've done in 2023. And so you're kind of growing and you're learning and you're changing, and you're getting better and better and better. But you kind of have to ask yourself, at what point does that stop? And in a lot of ways it doesn't really stop. Like, you're always going to look back and say, "Hey, the thing that I'm doing now is better than what I was doing before. I wonder, if I keep going, will what I do a year from now be better than what I'm doing right now?" You see what I'm saying? And so there's kind of like that never ending cycle of feeling like not only are you better, but you might be better later too, if you keep this up. And so that was kind of part of the problem that I had, was that I kept thinking to myself, "But I can make it better. Okay, if I can make it better. Like, I'm growing and I'm learning, and I've read another book, and this book that I read was really, really good, and it taught me a lot of things. Why don't I try and implement some of that into my book to see if I can make it better?" You see what I'm saying? And I think you have to be careful with that, because in some ways, you might end up losing track of the original vision that you had. And the original vision that I had for, the Broken World, and for, David Eco and Dust Bunny, and, my characters, it comes from a child's heart, and, when you're a kid, it's, a lot easier to see those kinds of things and to draw your stick men and to have that narrative there, and to make skeletons with pistols and space pirates and all these things make sense, but when you become an adult and you kind of experience the world, it puts you in a different place, and you kind of have to kind of look back and say, "Hey, can I still portray this very childlike vision, but do it in a good and mature way?" You just have to kind of work that out. And one of the things that was really difficult for me was getting the story to work, getting it to work and getting it to meet that vision that I had. And this is something that Brandon Sanderson actually talked about in an article that he wrote, and I can't remember exactly what the article. It was Outside or Inside. I think it was Inside. Okay, I think it was Inside. That's the one I'm going with, but I'll link it down below. And it was a really great article, and it was unfortunately spawned by some nasty news reporter, who decided to kind of do a drama piece about him, in some capacity, and actually really belittle a very, very good author, funny enough. But I'll link what Brandon's kind of response was to that, and it was an article talking about why he writes. And he writes to bring people inside. And it's a very, very good article, beautifully written. And if you're a writer and you need some encouragement, or want some, understanding, I think that this article provides a lot of that. And one of the things that he tapped on in this article that I had thought about before, and I knew kind of in my heart this what he meant, but I had never really put it into words the way that Brandon Sanderson had. And he was saying, I get emotional about writing, not when a character dies or not when a character lives. I get emotional when the story works. And I don't know if you know what he means by that, but I know when I read that, I was like, I know exactly what you're talking about, because I've had those moments where I'm writing, and I kind of read through it and I'm like, this is it. This is the moment where it works, right? It just makes sense and it all comes together. And And it's happened with artwork too sometimes. Like you're getting in that flow, and you can be tricked a lot of the times as a creative person. You think, man, this is going really, really good. And you look back at it later and you're like, actually, the eyes are all kind of wonky, the hair color's off, just nothing makes any sense, but it felt good at the time. But this moment of it working is when you do come back to it, right? You come back to it later. You stop drawing for a little bit, you go get a sandwich, down a Dr. Pepper, and you come back and you're like, wait a second, it still looks good. I took a break from it and I come back, and it still is like the picture is still there. And I think the reason that it works is because it fits the vision. It fits the thing that you're looking for. And that thing that you had imagined is now on the paper. It's drawn out or it's written out, and it works. I don't know how else to put it. It makes sense. And so, like I said before, I don't know if this is something that I regret spending so much time looking for. Because I debated for a long time. I thought to myself, man, I don't know if the Broken World's ever going to be ready. I don't know if it's going to be good enough. I don't know if it's going to be. And, I think the question is not so much is it good enough. I think there definitely should be, hear me out, there should be some level of quality there, and you want it to be good. But I think the moment that it's good enough is the moment that it works. And I think that was really something that I didn't understand very well, kind of writing all of that time. Um, was you're always going to change. You can always be better. Um, but I think the moment to publish your story, the moment to put it out into the world, is the moment that your story works. When you look at it, um, and you keep coming back to it, and you keep thinking to yourself, this is amazing. It works. I can't believe it, but it's there. The story that I've been looking for now exists. And that's I think when I found that out, I realized that was something that I didn't understand for the longest time. I'm looking for when it works. And I absolutely have to agree with Brandon Sanderson. I'm not an emotional guy. You can ask my wife and my family. I'm just look. I'm not here to cry tears or boohoo or any of that. But there's something about, and there was a moment kind of writing the Broken World, and look, you guys might read it and be like, this is the stupidest crap I've ever read. Look, I get it and I respect it, but I remember kind of reading my book back after it had been, kind of edited and fixed up, and I thought, this is it. It works, and so if you are, a writer out there, there's going to be this debate, this clash in your brain, like, hey, is it ready? Is it done? Like, what's going on? And this was something that this feeling of confusion and really just not knowing. Like, I didn't know what I was looking for. There's not a guidebook for how you write or for how like there's no other example of your book. You can't just say, my writing is great and wonderful, because you don't, you're too close to it. You don't know that it is, and there's all of these things going on in your brain. But I think that there's going to be a moment, okay? It might not be easy to reach. It's not going to be easy to reach. Let me rephrase that. It's not going to be easy at all, because you're going to have to rewrite your book 18 times, okay? From top to bottom, because it's not going to work. And you might have to change 3 plot points or kill off that character. You're going to have to do things to it that you never thought you would have to do. And then it's going to work. And then it's going to work, and everything's going to be worth it. I think that is true of, at least for me, it's true of all of the creative endeavors that I have been a part of. There's a moment in art when you get to a point you're like, this works, this looks good. There's a moment in writing. I do a little part-time preaching as well, and when you're writing out a sermon, you're kind of deriving, all of your all of your sermon ideas, at least from the Bible, or something like that. And but you kind of put it all together, and you're like, this works. Like the points and the information makes sense. And you feel it, and you're like, this is right, this is good, it works. And I know for me, the moment that I knew, I spent 10 years working on this book, trying to figure out how to make it work, and I did not understand that that's really what I was looking for. I was looking for, trying to be a great writer. I was trying to do all of these different things. And I think what you need to be looking for is the moment that your story clicks. And I think that's exactly where the book needs to be. You're always going to be striving to be better. And you might have moments where you get worse. Like, let's be honest, okay? We as people, our creativity sometimes fluctuates. Sometimes your writing is great and it's the best thing you've ever written, and that part of writing that you've done will kind of endure through some of the drafts, and things like that. But I really think that you're looking for the moment that it works. And I think you'll know it when you see it. And I think if you haven't seen it, it's because there's a little more work to do. And I look back on kind of the long amount of time that it took me to get to this point. Again, I'm not famous, I'm not rich, I'm not super whatever, but I am genuinely proud of what I've put out there. That doesn't mean that it's without its mistakes. It had a few things going on with it, and I would actually like to talk about some of those little goofs, at some point in a video, some of the little things that happened with my book that I had to fix very quickly. But none of them were really story related, narrative related. And when I look back at the story, when I look back at my vision and what I was trying to put out there, it works. And again, you might read it and be like, this is goofy. This man's got dust bunnies and donuts and dragons and people living in different time frames at the same time. It's all kinds of stuff going on. But I'm very proud of it, and it works. So, if you're a writer, if you're looking to do that, again, I don't have a Skillshare. I don't have a $900 course that you can buy to tell you when all of this takes place. But I think you're looking for the moment that it all clicks. And I think if you read enough, if you draw enough, if you write enough, you'll know that moment when it comes. So thank you guys for watching. I'm going to cut it off there. I'm going to shut up. I am known to be a bit of a rambler. So I'll see you guys later. I just wanted to put that out there. And if anybody's listening that wants to be a writer, just look for that moment. So thank you very much for watching. Really appreciate it. Please go check out my little book, The Broken World. You might read it and think it's goofy, but at least you've read it. So thank you again. I'll see you. Bye.